Thanks for checking out The Simple Man's Gospel, a podcast about the restored gospel of Jesus Christ for the everyday, imperfect, and simple Latter-day Saint. The views expressed on this podcast are the thoughts and opinions of the hosts and do not represent the teachings and beliefs of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. Welcome back to The Simple Man's Gospel, a gospel-related podcast for the simple everyday Latter-day Saint. I'm here with my co-host Tom. It has been months, many months.
Yeah.
I don't know how many months. I don't even know what the last topic we discussed was.
I don't know.
I think it might have been the Ruby Frankie documentary.
Oh yeah, it was.
Pretty sure that's the last topic we discussed. So something came across my news feed or whatever you want to call it about the topic of polygamy. And so I wanted to reach out to Tom and discuss this topic. I don't know why it's so hot, but it's apparently, well, let me give some background and then we'll get into it. Apparently, a document that was in the possession of one John W. Taylor, who was at one point an apostle for the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, has now been made publicly accessible through the church's archives.
So this is the church official.
The church's official archives, yes, this document is available. So a little bit of background on what this is. It is a document that was written by John Taylor when he was the president of the church regarding polygamy and the practice thereof. So I guess I don't know why this is so controversial. I don't know if you had a chance to read of course, it's an article by the Salt Lake Tribune, so there's going to be some kind of bias and leaning in the article. But controversy, the controversy is that this document was not released until recently. So, are you familiar with this supposed revelation that came from John Taylor?
I am familiar with the revelation.
Okay.
I don't know why it's a controversial, but
okay. Tell me what your understanding of this is.
That, well, about the article, about the revelation.
About the revelation. So the date of the revelation was dated September 27th, 1886.
Yeah. And it's about polygamy, right?
Yeah. Have you read it in its entirety?
I have not read this entirely. I just know what the revelation is, and I know that it wasn't like what year was it? Was what
year was the manifesto? But that President Woodruff, 1890.
1890, and then probably like another. Where was that article says? It's like how long after that when they came out and basically said, "Oh, we're not doing that anymore."
Yeah, so this John Taylor document was 1886. 4 years later,
that's right.
1890, there was a manifesto sent regarding the practice or the stopping of the practice of polygamy. Well, let's back up. Let's define what this is. What is the practice of polygamy, Tom?
Is to lawfully be married to multiple partners or women.
Right. So in the context of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, there was the practice that one man could be married to multiple women at the same time legally under the practice of polygamy. This we believe it was instituted by revelation. The prophet Joseph Smith received revelation that we should be practicing plural marriage, and there's been a lot of justification, or not justification. There's been a lot of discussion as to why the practice was instituted, and I want to get your take. What do you like? What's your how do you explain this to people?
Ah, it's a very sensitive subject. I
Okay,
don't
tell me
know.
why.
I
Why is
mean,
it sensitive?
I think people are against it. Of course, they think that it's weird.
Sure.
We, as the church did it in the early days, is more revelation was more because there were a lot of women that are without husbands, and uh, for some reason, I don't know why. There's more women in the church, I guess,
Well,
and they need to take.
I've heard and read multiple reasons why. Right, there
Yeah,
was, you know, um, there was certain conflicts that drew, like the Mormon Battalion, drew men
yeah,
away, and some people would say that this was the Lord's way of like replenishing the population, um,
population. Yeah, I've heard of that.
caring for women that didn't have a man in the home, right,
Who
providing for
couldn't
them,
take providing for them?
right, providing some kind of kind of an equality of resources and wealth, right? So these women that didn't have this men
Yeah,
that could do that. So it served as a way to help financially stabilize these relationships. So
yeah.
whether that was the Lord's intent, that was a result of the practice of polygamy. Now, why is this such a sensitive topic?
I think it's more of, at least for the church members. I think there are some that do have issues with this as well. That it would be hard. In fact, I know a story about Spencer W. Not Spencer W. Who is it? Ah, he was a Kimball,
Okay,
and in fact, the Lord visited his wife and then mentioned something about that. This is part of the Lord's plan.
this was in the early days of the church.
Early days. In
Yeah,
fact, he didn't want to practice polygamy. In fact, he was walking into
and
the
I
woods.
know this story. Yeah, and his wife
Yeah,
received
and
a revelation.
his wife received this, and so even Joseph Smith didn't want to do this. In fact, Joseph Smith was commanded, and he actually says no to a certain extent. And the Lord said, "Send an angel. If you don't do this, I will strike you down
Yeah,
right this moment."
yeah,
so,
yeah.
so I don't know. I mean, this is something not to me not of controversial because we don't see it in the way that that the world would see it, right? Like I how do I say this? I feel like the world sees it in a way that we use this as like in a different light, in a
I
different
I
way.
think the take is that we were justifying sexual
Yes.
pleasure. Like this was a way to justify having sex with multiple women. Where I don't know that in the early days that was really even part of it.
Yeah, I
Um,
don't think it was. That's the thing. The context of it, people don't realize. Is like these were men in the 1800s that never even thought about this type of practice. I mean,
right. It was not
none
something
of,
that they were like, we got to figure out a way.
yeah.
I
So
don't see that as I don't see that as the being the intent behind
no,
polygamy. Right. Like
at least from my understanding.
yeah, same.
Now, in today's world, it might be a little different. The way other
Sure.
people
Like
are, because
polyamory is the thing, right?
yeah. So we know that the RLDS, or what do they call themselves now? I believe they're called.
So they start. I mean, the first offshoot was the fundamentalists, right? They were
Yes,
the
yeah,
ones that kind of latched onto this John Taylor document that we're discussing today.
yep.
Um,
And they never let it go. Still,
Never let it go. Here's the controversy behind this:
okay. Tell me about
the church never really openly stated that they had this in their possession after being
it. Okay,
asked multiple times. So the leaders of the church never really came out and said, "Yes, we have it and we read it." Um, are you? I don't understand why this is a controversy
me neither.
from my perspective. From someone else's perspective, I do,
Okay,
because they're not taking in the entire historical context, nor are they
I
taking
agree.
into consideration the process by which a revelation is canonized.
Okay. So let me present you with something. Let's say the Catholic Church.
Okay.
There were times in history where they pay people where people pay them to be forgiven of sins. It's called blood money at
Right.
the
Right.
Scotch
Blood
Testament.
atonement or whatever.
Blood blood atonement. I mean, why is that? Was that a controversial thing?
Sure.
Uh, I don't think it was, because you know why? Because the Catholic Church chose to do that to its own people. And did they keep from the people? Yeah, we didn't find this out until later on in history that they were doing this.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, that's
if it
true.
wasn't a big, so why if it, I don't understand why this is
Well,
a
let
controversial.
me ask, if we're trying to relate it to the same thing, did the Catholic Church hide, or did
Yes,
they suppress
yes,
this
they hide it.
information?
Yes,
Okay.
they did. They
Okay.
sure did. They suppressed a lot of stuff. We're not going to talk about it.
I guess my question would be why what was the benefit to, I don't know if hiding, but not like publicly announcing that they had this. What was the benefit to
I,
that?
I don't think it's hiding. I think it's just why need I don't they can do we can do what we want. Like if they want to if they wanted to present it and show as of right now they did, and so I don't know
It
why
wasn't an
they.
announcement though. There was no like newsroom announcement that, oh, by the way, if you read through Saints Volume 2, Chapter 40, you're going to come across this reference. This is what it's referencing. There was no announcement.
So you're telling me that it's been there the whole time?
Well, some people suspect that the church had access to at least a copy of it as early as 1933,
Yeah. I mean, guys,
which who knows, right?
I'm sure there's
Still,
document in the Catholic Church that we
I
probably
I
don't know
read
about.
through. Yeah, sure, absolutely. Like if you go to the catacombs in the Vatican, I'm sure there's so many things that we have no idea that
Yeah.
the Catholic Church is holding on to. Not only the historical value, but the monetary value that they're holding on to. So,
Exactly.
um, what I gathered from the Tribune article was there were references to a copy. I didn't see any reference to when the church came into possession of the original handwritten manuscript.
Well,
That could have come years later.
didn't it say in the article? I read a little bit that John Taylor's son had the article, or had
John W.
the
Taylor, yeah,
revelation.
John
Yeah,
W.
had
Taylor had it in possession. It didn't
and
come to
he.
the church until, or even a copy of it didn't come to the church until it was like John W. Taylor's daughter or something like that
Yeah.
that
Well,
said that
and
she had
also
a copy.
he fell away, right?
Yes, John
Yeah.
W. Taylor went and it's because of this issue.
But I see
He
that as a
continued to
like.
practice polygamy.
I know, and so so I guess I don't understand why people are making a big deal. In my opinion, it's just the church didn't have to document at least to a certain extent for the longest
So
time, right?
here's why I think people think this is controversial, because this was what one man said was a revelation from God for the church, that the practice of this practice would never go away. It's an everlasting commandment. And so now people are like, how do we know what is and isn't revelation? But at the
Okay,
same
so my
time,
okay,
they're not taking in the process by which a revelation becomes canonized.
so sadly
They're
next. Yep.
completely, if you read through the Tribune article, they completely ignore that context.
Yeah. You said what was the phrase you said was this is going to be an everlast. What is it? The
An
everlasting.
everlasting
Uh,
commandment.
is he wrong?
We
I
don't know.
mean,
I don't know.
I
I don't know. I don't know the Lord's mind. I don't know what's
I
going to
don't.
be,
Yeah,
what marriage is going to look like in the eternities.
I know
It
this.
was practiced in the Bible.
I
There's
know
mention
this.
of the practice in the Book of Mormon. It was
Yeah,
practiced in the early days of the church.
and there's going to
So,
be in the afterlife.
right. Is it going to be practiced after this life? I don't see why there wouldn't be a case. I don't know. I don't know. What the
Well, I
Lord knows
mean,
what's going to make us most happy.
we could make the cases that there are going to be more women that make it into the system than men,
there, there could be the case made for that.
right? I
Yeah.
mean, they're going to
Yeah.
need, and if you practice and you don't understand the law and the covenant, that to obtain the social kingdom, you have to be
You have to be sealed.
sealed
Yeah. Enter the new
and
and everlasting covenant of marriage.
for
Right.
marriage. And if other women can't needs that part to make the kingdom, there's a reason why when he says this is everlasting, you know, principle.
Here's the thing.
But I know. But here's hold on. But I know it's so hard to hear to fathom that part of a mind from our perspective because we don't know what the eternity looks like and what it will be. And I understand
Right.
that part. And like you, I do get why people would be like, I don't know, disagree with what John Taylor revealed and fell away from the church. I don't know. I kind of understand that.
President John Taylor never presented this to the first presidency or the quorum of the 12
Well,
first sustaining vote.
wonder why.
Probably
Why
because he saw what was going to transpire years down the road.
exactly down
President
the road?
Taylor
He's
and Wilford Woodruff both
oh
advocated for the continued practice of polygamy.
yep.
Both of them did. Neither of them thought
But
that it would be abolished. But the
and
Lord showed Wilford Woodruff when he was the prophet what would
yeah,
happen to the church had they continued.
if it's continued, yeah. And but the thing is the outside of the world. Even actually, let me think that about even members of the church probably have a hard time with that. It's the same thing
Yeah,
with the priesthood being presented to African American men.
right.
Everybody, everything. People are gonna be
Everything
like,
could be controversial. Anytime there's any type of policy adjustment or change, there could be controversy.
yeah. But my thing is people get hung over on that part because they're like, oh, it's so convenient that all of a sudden he says, oh, we got to change it now. I mean, sure, why not? Are we supposed to adapt to the change of I guess of certain event? I don't know. We have to adapt, right? I
Right.
don't see that as I see as I believe that God, Heavenly Father, told him can't do that anymore. We're going back to traditional. They can have it now because I want them to. Just like the Jews had the gospel and the Gentile
Right.
weren't allowed to have it for a certain extent. What's wrong? Oh no. He said he can have it now. All of a sudden, is that a coincidence? Maybe there plays a part to it. I don't know. But we have to. We have to obey the law of the land, right?
Yeah.
That's one of the
Had the
commandments.
gospel been preached to the Gentiles during the pre BC, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Then they would have been slaughtered.
That's slaughtered.
They would have
All
been
gone.
slaughtered.
And
So
so,
yeah, I no, I would agree, right? If we think of the Levites, right, they were the only ones that held the priesthood in the Old Testament times. It wasn't
yep.
they were the ones that performed the ordinances. The rest of the house of Israel did not. So the fact that,
Well,
now all worthy males are ordained to an office in the priesthood, did the gospel change? Did the mind of God change? No.
no,
No.
stays the
It
same.
was his work is it's rolling forth, and revelation comes line upon line. And yeah, I don't know. I agree with you. I don't think that the
So
mind of God changes. I think that his commandments for his children need to, in order for us to live the gospel and keep our covenants, need to
yeah,
adapt.
here's my hot take on this. is that how funny that we practiced that in the early days and then we stop. In the last day, which we're living in now, we will fight against polygamy. Just watch.
You think we're going to
Everybody
fight
else,
against polygamy?
everybody else would practice. We won't, right? Not until at least till the eternity, right?
Sure. I mean, let's look at it like the United Order or the
Yep,
law of consecration. Like we can look at it the same way.
same
In the
way.
early
Yeah.
days, it was practiced. It didn't work out because people couldn't. They had to have what they wanted, and people got jealous. But that was tried again.
I don't even think you could do it
They've
today either. With the how the world
well,
how selfish
it'd
we are.
be. It's not. No, I agree. It's not. It's not going to be possible. We look
Uh,
at communism. Communism was essentially what they were trying to do. Was everyone for common good or whatever, right? Everyone has what they need according to what their need is. I don't know what the communist manifesto is, but I think it's essentially that.
I
so
think I agree with you on that one. So
so the yeah, I mean, we're not in our Western society. Communism is has not been done well. It's
no,
resulted in so many deaths and abuses of power. I would say that if polygamy comes back not ordained by God, it's going to be the same thing. And we see that with Warren Jeffs.
and they're gonna call us hypocrites. I can see it. I
Maybe.
can see it, man. I can see
Sure.
it.
I mean, but
I can see
it's
that.
like, I could see that too. But look at Warren
Yeah.
Jeffs.
I mean, he puts he puts everybody in the early days to shame, doesn't he? With all the
Well,
stuff he
yeah, I mean,
does.
that's what I'm saying, right? It's not ordained
Yeah.
by God. And we see that because
Yeah.
it's not ordained by God, men take it into their own hands and they abuse this power that they have. It's the same with communism. Right? There's this
Exactly.
oligarchy that rules over the working class people and just oppresses them, and it doesn't work until the savior comes again. I don't know. I don't know that polygamy would be practiced again unless the savior came. We see him physically here, and he says to do it. I don't see it coming back,
But
but that's
people
just
don't
my
realize.
opinion.
No, no. But I agree with you in that one, and I think I have speculation. I think I'm serious when I say there'll be more women to make the substitution than men. I'm not kidding about that.
Sure,
I
I could see
I
that.
think
I've done many
men are
things
more.
in my life that would dissuade the Lord from allowing me to enter the celestial
Me
kingdom.
too.
It's not for the grace of
Me
God.
too.
That, that is the only way I'm going to make it is by the grace of God.
And men are more cynical and all that. And so I feel like that principle, I think that aspect is actually true. Now I agree with you. I mean, I don't know what the Lord's going to do. I don't know what He's going to tell us what we can practice or not practice. But that's not the point. The point is like a lot of people don't realize, like, oh, He'll never say that. Well, maybe you can say that now, but when that time comes, and He comes for the second time, and He tells Tom, Dave, Whitney, you know, practice polygamy. What is your response? That is the key. It's not now because we're saying, oh yeah, we're gonna say no, we can't do it. You know, we're gonna say yes and stuff. But when we're put on the spot, I don't. That's how we react to that situation. Is what makes us
I
saints
mean,
or no saints. And then
you can say no to a calling if you want.
I know. I don't know how you do that though, dude. I can't do that. I can't do that.
I don't know that I've ever said no to a calling.
I've never said no to a calling.
I have been asked to be released from callings though.
Me
So
too.
um
Me
it's
too.
it's interesting. Um here's I don't know who wrote this article. I don't know who this is. I know who wrote it. Mike Hoogtrip, historian. Benjamin Park says, let's see. I don't no readers. Benjamin Park teaches American
He's not.
history at Sam Houston State University in Huntsville, Texas. Is the author of American Zion, A New History of Mormonism, runs the YouTube channel Professor Benjamin Park, and recently became the president of the Mormon History Association.
Wait,
The views,
this is not part of the church, is it?
the Mormon History Association. I
Yeah,
have no idea. I've never actually heard of this.
I thought we were getting away from the word Mormon,
We are
so I don't think this is a. Maybe this is anti stuff. I don't know.
Mormon History Association. I don't know what this is. It's an independent, nonprofit organization
Yeah,
dedicated to the study and understanding of all aspects of Mormon history. We welcome all who are interested in the Mormon past, irrespective of
aka
religious. Yeah. So, yeah, this
aka
is.
anti.
I could see
they
that. Let's.
they're just using words, upskills words to make it look like they're not, but they are. They're anti Mormon.
Right. Right.
I mean, come on.
So, yeah, they're digging into history, looking for ways to discount the Lord's
Yeah,
will
the Lord's well. But
because they
here's the
don't
thing,
see it
though,
as the
Dave,
Lord's will.
and I don't blame people outside of our faith. I don't blame them if they don't understand it or that they are against it. I can see it. I mean, I know members who doesn't like that law or that principle of polygamy. They despise it, and they're still active member of the church, and so it's hard. I mean, it was hard for Joseph to do it. How
Right.
much he loved Emma. I mean, I've read so many stuff on Joseph Smith, and the one true thing about him is that he truly loved Emma, and that he would never do anything to. And so for him to do that, it was hard on him. And so I mean,
Yeah.
it's not easy. I think to just like, oh yeah, I can have more than one. Like, come on, dude.
Yeah. That was not the way it went down.
No,
Heber C. Kimball.
Heber C.
Let's
Kimball. That's
see.
him. Yep.
The decision to accept such a wrenching trial came only after earnest prayer and intense searching. Brigham Young said that upon learning of plural marriage, it was the first time in my life that I had desired the grave. I had to pray unceasingly, he said, and I had to exercise faith that the Lord revealed to me the truth of it, and that satisfied me. Heber C. Kimball
Yep.
found comfort only after his wife Violet
Mm-hmm.
had a visionary experience attesting
She
to the
did.
rightness
Yeah.
of plural marriage. She told me,
I
Violet's daughter later recalled, she never saw so happy a man as father was when she described the vision and told him she was satisfied and knew it was from God.
noticed on that was Brigham Young's wife, right?
Violet? No,
Yeah, was that
Violet was
Brigham?
Heber C.
No,
Kimball's
it was yeah. So
Heber C. Kimball's wife.
she got the a reassurance of this is from the Lord, and Heber C. Kimball later got the same, and he obeyed it, and so he. In fact, I read it. I read it where he was so distraught that he was walking into the woods that he just wants to just basically disappeared and died
Yeah.
because he couldn't bear doing this to his wife, and so but
Yep. Yeah.
I'm not sure, honestly. I'm not sure why this is a controversial. I mean, I think people are missing the point. It's like they're so focused on this. People who are all already gone out of the church that does not want to have anything to do with it. Maybe they use this as an excuse. There's more depth into
But
their
it's another
inactivity.
excuse to question the leaders of the
True,
church.
true.
All right.
I mean, I don't.
Here's a paragraph from this article. As important as the document will likely be to fundamentalists, it raises thorny issues for Latter-day Saints. Was Taylor's revelation true? And were the prophets who followed him traitors? And what does it mean for Latter-day Saint authority if revelations and revelators are fallible? So again, completely ignoring the process by which revelation is canonized and ignoring the fact
Yeah,
that President
yeah.
Taylor never presented this to the First Presidency and never
So
presented it to the Quorum of the 12 for a sustaining vote. They're using it as an excuse to say these are fallible men and you
yep.
shouldn't be listening to them. They're not revealing the word of God. That's what this is trying, right? Just trying to prove that the church is not led by men of God. So that's why I think this is
It's,
controversial. The way it's
I
written is
guess,
definitely inciting
yeah.
controversy.
I think people who, if anybody out there that listening, if you have questions, ask ask the people who are in the church. Now, granted, I get it. We're biased because we do, but ask me. I've been on both sides. Ask people who,
Sure.
I just say it's like I feel like they're getting their information, and most of all, they're not getting the context of the revelation at all. They're
Right.
just going off. All they hear is polygamy, and then they go off of that. Oh, that's wrong, and try to contradict revelation. But I don't know. Like, to me, I don't see. If you're a one man, if you understand the gospel and you know the spirit, this should never be an issue in my opinion. But I understand if it is. I understand if it is because this is hard. This is not an easy principle or a commandment that they had to. Remember, it was a commandment, folks. It wasn't just It wasn't a preference. It was a commandment.
Right. It was a calling.
So,
They were called to take on more wives. Um,
yeah,
here's the thing. The manifesto, after all of the quorum of the 12 read it and prayed about it, including John W. Taylor, they sustained it as revelation. So I yeah, if you're listening to this and you've read this Tribune article and you've read the John Taylor
manifesto.
document, go read Saints Volume 2, specifically chapter 40, where it references this, and it talks about
Yeah,
John W. Taylor and that and the document he had. If I may, the manifesto was still unsettled. John W. Taylor, who had been called to the Quorum of the 12 shortly after Heber, after the death of his father, President John Taylor, John W., had found a purported revelation about marriage among the prophet's papers. The revelation, dated September 27th, 1886, seemed to suggest that to John W. that the commandment to practice plural marriage would never be revoked. Although the revelation had never been presented to the Quorum of the 12 or accepted as scripture by the saints, John W. believed it was the word of God to his father, yet he knew revelation was continuing and ongoing, addressing new situations and problems as they arose, and John W. had faith that God had spoken to Wilford as well. I know that the Lord has given this manifesto to President Woodruff, he said, and he can take it away when the time comes, or he can give it again. And then it goes on to talk about all the Quorum of the 12 and their reactions and their sustainment of this manifesto. So, yeah, if you've read the article, the Tribune article, read some more into saints and educate yourself on this from the actual, the source of
yeah.
the history of the church,
Ma-
and educate yourself in the process by which revelation is sustained, because there is a process. The Lord is it's a house of order. It's not a house of chaos. We don't just throw things out willy-nilly and hope that the body of the saints accept it.
Two words: modern revelation.
Modern
If you
revelation.
believe in if you believe in modern revelation, why can't things change? I mean, guys, you act like the children of Israel were these saints. They had so many revelation change to their benefit, and they still didn't follow. But some, I mean, most did, but some didn't. And yet, that's not a controversial. But I don't understand that part. If you understand modern revelation, you understand there will be things that will be changed, and God will do according to what He wants for the benefit of His children. And I so what? So what if John Taylor said this would never be revolt. Well, apparently John Taylor doesn't know the Lord as well as, as well either. Not that he wasn't he was a prophet of God. I agree with that. But even the prophet of God aren't perfect, folks.
Right.
Go back to Noah. Go back to Moses. Go back to all that. They make mistakes. People make mistakes. They're still human. It happens. And you know what? The Lord said, no, you know what? This is not good for us now. And I see this as the benefit for us. Let's change it. Modern revelation. I'm okay with it. And so
Yeah. Yeah. And consider, if you will, the implication or the what would have happened had they continued the practice of polygamy despite the Supreme Court saying that the government can start to take church property, including the temples,
we wouldn't have
if
any of
they
this.
right. We wouldn't be here anymore.
No,
We wouldn't have
cease
the
to
ability
exist.
to do ordinances for those on the other side of the veil. So to say that the Lord has said this practice is going to continue despite the law of the land, yeah, I think it's short sighted.
Very short sighted.
I tend to accept how things have transpired. Of course, I've got my perspective, right? I have the benefit of hindsight, and I can see how the Lord's will has transpired over the years, from prophet to prophet, from revelation to revelation, and you know, how are we going to react when something else happens, right? Like
Or
the
when it comes back to us. No.
sure, yeah, yeah.
How would we react to
Um,
that? So
I'll throw out an example, a modern example. The It's not even like a change of revelation or a change in the practice of anything major like polygamy, right? But the style of the temple garment,
I knew you would bring that up.
dude. Let's go back to Nauvoo. What
Oh
was the temple
man.
garment? It was like ankle to wrist,
Yeah.
neck down,
Yeah.
one piece of garment. And
And a
today,
session
and say that again.
and sessions in the temple
Oh
were like
yeah, the
a
way the ordinance is
day.
presented.
They
Yeah.
took forever.
Yep.
Gosh. I don't
So
is people in Utah pretty divided when it comes to the garments change and stuff.
I don't know. I don't think so. Um,
But for some reason online seem to be there's a lot of people out there that does not have a life.
what are you seeing online?
I don't know, just people talking about just people like doesn't wear garments, but
Oh,
they're active or say, oh, I'm okay with this. I can wear the bottom, but I'm not gonna wear the top. Or I can wear the top, but I'm
right,
gonna wear the bottom. Or
right.
I'm gonna pull my garments up and make sure that everybody can see my butt. I
I
don't know.
think we've talked about this on a previous episode, didn't
Yeah,
we?
yeah,
Yeah.
and it's
So
like
if we go back, right, the style of the garments changed, the presentation of the endowment has changed, um, and I got to think like when it was changed from long sleeve to short sleeve, and were given that option, how did people react? Right, there were those that have
I
been with
they better be like, heck yeah. I mean,
or
how
they
you
would have been
know?
like, "This is the Lord has changed. The church isn't true." Right?
Good point.
I see both sides of it. Right? I can see that
Yeah,
from both ways. But this the covenants haven't changed.
it's just modern revelation. It's not even modern revelation. It's adapting to what I don't even know. Here's my question: is like I'm, but we're guys, right? We're easy. Just give us,
Yeah,
just give us, and we're
yeah.
over it. Just give me. make it boxer brief. Like we're okay.
Right, right.
I do see and understand and have empathy for the girls because they want to look cute and they want to wear certain things that not that it's provocative, but that it does show the garments, and and I can see why they roll it up and stuff. No excuse though, but so I understand. And so the changes is not even for guys; it's more for girls, for the women, right? I'm assuming.
I mean, there's short sleeve options or sleeveless options for the men.
Okay,
So
I didn't know that.
yeah, it's gonna be both ways. But um, I guess my point is, what if the say the style of the garment changes? Has the covenant that you enter into hasn't?
Change? No, it hasn't
And who
changed,
cares what one person does or wears,
or
right?
don't
Like,
wear.
or don't wear.
That's up to them.
Their decision to keep the covenants is on them, right? It's their
Yeah, I
choice.
don't. I don't get mad at people if they don't wear garments and stuff. And no,
Yeah,
I don't think you can. I don't think those people can lecture people about it. But or
right, right.
you can wear a
And
garment. What?
here's can I can I say
What?
something? This is going to be, I don't know, controversial, but like, or hypocritical. But there are so many people out there with social media and a big following, and they podcast and share their opinions with everybody as if they're an authority about anything.
Yeah, they're not. And
Right.
here's the thing: people who follow them and listen to them, you are, excuse my language, morons. Yeah, you're a sheep. Do you know what sheeps are? They're stupid. they do, they'll follow the shepherd to anywhere. If you follow the
Well,
wrong
you're following
shepherd,
the right shepherd, though, right? That's
you follow the right one, you'll be fine. But you people act like these people. They're like, oh, if she do it, I'm gonna do it. Like, you have a mind of your own,
right,
folks.
right, right. Just
Even though
because
you're a
someone's
sheep,
popular,
yeah.
just because someone has a following and a voice, doesn't mean they're right. Just because
And
a couple of guys decide to grab some mics and start a podcast doesn't mean their opinion is the end all be all of gospel topics.
I I hope you guys don't listen to half the stuff I say because it's just my opinion. Now there are principles. There are. I think to me, when I first got my garments, I was never told wear this. I was told one way to wear it and one way only. That's what I was told. I was never. I told you can roll it up. You can, That's what I was told. Can
Yeah,
that change? Sure, it can change. Maybe now people can change the way they came out with a different style. So I'm sure that has changed a little bit. But that doesn't change for the fact that what the covenants means to me and what the symbolism of it means. And so, but and don't get me started with these influencers and these idiots, especially those people who, excuse me, those people who are like, oh, I quit the church and now I'm happy. Get a freaking life. Go get a life. Stop talking about us.
that's what has
I
become their identity, though. That's how they get.
I
That's how they get
I
clicks and
know
links and shares. Is
I know we're going off topic, but have you ever seen active members go out and purposely say those people who left us, you're stupid, you're going to hell?
no,
I've
no,
never
they
seen
don't.
that, but I've seen the opposite. I've
Oh
seen
yeah,
people who are out the church can't leave it alone. Got to say, oh, you're dumb and for following this, all these old men. And yet, but when we say something back to you, oh, you're supposed to be Christ-like. Get out of here. I this is my downfall, and the Lord knows it. I cannot show love to stupidity. I can't. I cannot do it.
oh,
If
that's
if
funny.
you're out there and you're saying I'm so much happier that I'm not with the Mormon Church anymore, then why are you talking about us?
Yeah, leave it
Leave
alone.
us leave us alone. We don't care about you either. The Lord
Yeah.
does. Don't get me wrong.
I don't.
Tom,
I don't care
Tom
that you're
doesn't care
drinking
about it.
coffee now. I don't care that you're drinking alcohol now. I don't
No,
care. Do what you
why?
want.
And they have to post these anti stuff. I'm like, don't you have a life? Don't you have something better to do than
Oh,
to try to 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 let out your anger at yourself? You're really angry at yourself, folks, not the church. It's you. You're the dumb one. Yeah, I said it. And you, if you're so happy and you don't want to have to do with the church anymore, then get out of here. Go, but you can't because you won't allow yourself to do it because you have so much hate and because you can't identify with anything else but what you grew up to be, you know, to be true, and you know deep down inside is true. You just that's why you can't let it go, and so but you will never admit it because you're too stubborn and because you're too blinded. And I'm not saying I'm perfect. Dave knows
sure,
I'm not perfect.
sure.
And I'm saying this from the bottom of my heart. I don't care. Go. Do live your life, but stop talking bad about us. I don't talk bad about you. I don't tell you you're dumb and stupid.
Except
Get a
for now.
life for now. But I'll say it one time. Because if you guys can say that stuff about us, we you know what? We'll turn our cheek 3 times. The Lord said you turn 3 times. The fourth time, you can slap him back.
What's the reference
uh,
there? I don't.
I have no idea. No, I just made that up. Because he
I'm
said
not
turn the
familiar with that
three
passage,
times.
Tom.
I don't know.
Tell me
But
what.
anyways, I just if the reason this has been on my mind, like I've been scrolling and watching and all these people and talking about this, I'm just like, oh my gosh.
Have you watched the series "The Secret Lives of Mormon Wives" on Hulu?
No, no,
Oh my gosh, Sheena started watching it,
I don't need to
and
watch it.
I've caught a glimpse of it. These women are—they're not intelligent.
Dumb. They're dumb.
They're not
But
intelligent.
no, they're
They're
not.
not articulate,
Nope.
and the only reason they have a show is because of drama.
No, it's the way they look.
It's the way they look.
It I don't. Honestly, I
They're
see.
not
I
even that
watched it.
attractive.
They're not.
They're
And
not.
okay, I'm not. Folks, look at this. I'm not the best looking dude in the world. I will tell you right now. You know, my wife is. I've married. You know, high. You know, I marry into a great. You know, she's beautiful. She's all this and
We
that.
married up.
But
We married up,
we married up. But these girls are not that. They're not good
and
looking.
they look
I.
super fake
They're
too. They look so
they're
fake.
very. They're ugly to me, and I don't mean that like oh Tom uses hate. No, I look at them literally. I'm just like they are ugly, dude, and they do not represent us as much as
No,
they
they
think
definitely don't represent the church.
they're not, and they can't leave the church alone either because you know why? When you put a Mormon in front of anything, people will watch
Yeah, that's true. That's
because they
true.
hate us so much. So well, they hate the church so much, especially their own members. Man, you guys are ruthless. I like to debate people, so if you guys like want to come on to my podcast, not this one. We're trying to keep this spiritual. My other one, I'll debate you.
According to Tom.
Yeah. Oh, so anyway, sorry, we went off the trampoline, but all these changes does come into play with, like I said, modern revelation. If you
Yeah.
believe in that, if you believe in modern revelation, I think you. I don't think there's any controversial things that can come up. I don't know, unless I don't know. I don't I believe in modern religion,
Every,
so things
sure.
change.
Everything gets pulled into controversy though. Everything. There are people that find the new For the Strength of Youth guidelines to
Oh yeah.
be controversial. And some people are taking it as a free pass. So that was one thing I was going to say, right? If you referenced the children of Israel, the Hebrews, after they left Egypt, right? They were getting
Yep.
law after law after law after law. Theirs was getting more restrictive as they were
A
going
lot
on.
more than a lot more
Each
than
one
because
added more restrictions, and then it became kind of a point of pride for the Pharisees in Jesus' time to to hold people accountable for, violating all these made up laws that they have after the fact. Um, Now the Lord seems to be trying to respect our agency a little more and to give us the opportunity to choose rather than having a specific act that you should be doing or not doing. It is
Well,
more make good choices.
and sadly, I'm one of those people. We don't make good choices sometimes,
Yeah, so am
and
I.
that's the scary part. There's people who people who gets tattoos now, and Mormon with tattoos. I've seen like there's a group following group of I'm LDS, but I have tattoos, and it's okay. I don't know. The Lord gave us a body, and He says it's a temple. You
Yeah,
you you you, you decide.
here here's my issue with tattoos. Well, not so much an issue. I don't have an issue with tattoos. I like tattoos.
I don't. I want to get one. I
Sure,
always wanted one.
I've
I
always
always wanted
wanted
one.
one too. But my problem is
Yeah.
I don't know what I'm going to put on my body that's going to be on my body for
Uh,
the rest of my life. I don't know. I don't know what I would do that is so impactful to me. Yeah, I don't know what I would design for
the
something
only
to
one.
come.
Well, I mean, I left my kid's name on me.
Sure, okay, I could see
I mean,
that.
that's the only thing that I would probably ever, if I ever decide to do. But then again, I'm getting old. My body is shriveling. Except for looking at me.
So here's my thought. Um, and it's similar to the thought of like a wedding ring.
Yeah.
For those of us that got married in the temple, the covenants that we made are represented in our everyday wear. We wear it first thing. It's the closest to our skin. It's the garment that we've already talked about.
Mm-hmm.
That covenant represents not only my relationship with my wife, but it also represents my relationship with my kids. So if I'm going to wear my garment every day for the rest of my life, that's the same as having a tattoo of my wife and my kids on my body. So
Spiritual tattoos.
sure, yeah, a spiritual tattoo. It's
There
on the
you
fleshy tables of my heart, if you will. Um,
go.
so I, I I could see why someone would want to have a tattoo of something like that, but at the same time, my perspective is like that covenant is already represented
Well,
and symbolic in something that's on me all the time.
would you agree? Would you agree with this then? Then people who get tattoos are selfish.
I don't know that I would even say they're selfish. I would say they're trying to cope with something, and that is a coping mechanism.
To get a needle down your skin,
Yeah, it's
I
it's
guess.
euphoric. It's just like any other coping mechanism. And maybe it's not the most healthy way to cope with your trauma or your depression or whatever deeper seated issue there is. I think that is one way that people have found to cope
Hmm.
is by getting tattoos. Um, so I wouldn't say they're selfish. I would say they're looking for something
Okay.
that they're not able to find anywhere else. So that's what I
I
would say.
I
I would say that those
okay.
that make it part of their identity, that are part of a specific culture that doesn't endorse tattooing like ours, and you make that part of your social media presence, I think there's a disconnect there from what you're trying to accomplish.
I have to. I'll disagree a little bit. I think this a little bit
Okay.
has to do with selfishness. I think
Okay.
since you want to do what you want. Isn't that the same thing with being addicted to alcohol, being addicted to pornography, being addicted to it's
Right.
it's
And
it's
that's
what
but
you
that's what I'm
you might
saying.
be
But
you're coping. I get the
you're
coping
coping.
part, but at the same time, it is selfishness that comes into play as well. I believe that
Sure.
because
Right. It's a choice.
it's a choice. It's not the Lord never commanded you to go get a tattoo. It's you choose to
Right.
because you want to, not because the Lord. It's selfishness when it comes to that part of that aspect, at least in my opinion. But and I agree with you to a certain extent that it is a coping mechanism. But to get a tattoo,
Is it the most healthy
I
way to
can,
go? No, I don't think so.
yeah, I don't know. I can see being addicted to certain things is a coping that, but to choose to, I don't know. Tattoos is a little bit of a different issue, in my opinion. I think that's more because I don't care what the Lord says. I'm going to put this stuff on my body. It's. I think it has the selfishness aspect does come into play,
Yeah, and I
and
could,
so
yeah, I could see that. I could see that.
that's all I got tonight.
Yeah, and I would say the same as those of us that have dealt with addiction. Right, seek like seek help. It's
Yep.
not it's not something we can't overcome, especially with the Lord's help. Like His grace is there for all of us, even those that have gone and gotten tattoos, whether it's to cope or whether it's selfishness or whatever. Right, the grace of Jesus Christ is sufficient for all that humble themselves before Him. Um,
Yep.
he will
Agree.
make our weaknesses strong, and whatever that looks like is going to be different for everybody. And whatever your weaknesses are that the Lord needs you to understand, He's going to help you understand. So, whether that is difficulty with pornography or tattoos, or the changing in the temple garment styles, or this document from John Taylor, whatever the Lord's intention for you or for me individually, that is something that I need to take to the Lord, and He will, if I'm open to it, help me to understand what His purpose for me is. So,
Agree.
yeah. Well, that's all I got for tonight. We hopefully we brought it full circle in this discussion. I feel like we tried, and we tried to keep it all
Modern
relevant.
revelation for me. Modern revelation.
That's
And
really what
those
it
who
comes down to.
yeah, and for those who can't leave the church alone, get a life.
Leave the church and leave it alone. Live your
No, they
life.
can't.
No one cares
They
that
can't.
you're wearing bikinis and getting tattoos and drinking coffee.
Uh,
Nobody cares.
They cannot leave us alone. They cannot. They would never. Anyways,
There are some, but they're not. They're
true.
the silent majority. The
They are.
loud
I have
minority
to
that
agree.
won't be held up.
There are some, and so yeah,
Yeah, I
not a
think
lot
most
though.
people that I think most people that leave amicably. They're the ones that go inactive and then never come back, and
Yeah,
they're not openly speaking out against anything. It's others that.
they said they're idiots, as I call them. Yeah, I said it. All right, it's time
Well,
to go.
thanks for going on this rant with us today. Appreciate you listening. Next time, well, we'll try to do this more often.
We
And
should.
I feel like we say that like every 3 months. We're going to do it more often than we do for a little bit, and then we drop off. But yes, I think it's something that's good for both of us to just discuss these topics. And if you get some value out of it, great. If not, great. We'll keep doing it. But thanks for joining us. We will see you next time. And until then, keep it simple.